The Arabian Peninsula, in the early 7th century, was a world of stark and breathtaking contrasts. Here, vast oceans of sand stretched to an endless horizon, their dunes sculpted by winds that carried ancient whispers. Life was hard, dictated by the rhythm of the seasons and the location of precious oases. Scattered across this formidable landscape were nomadic Bedouin tribes, resilient and fiercely independent, their lives intertwined with the journeys of their camel caravans. These caravans were the lifeblood of Arabia, tracing shimmering trade routes that connected the great empires of Byzantium and Persia. They carried frankincense, myrrh, and spices, but they also carried ideas, stories, and beliefs from distant lands, creating a melting pot of cultures in cities like Mecca. Mecca itself was a bustling hub, a vibrant center of commerce and faith. But the faith here was a fragmented one. The Kaaba, a simple cube-shaped structure, was a sanctuary for a multitude of idols, each representing the deities of various tribes. The tribes often warred with one another, their loyalties bound by kinship and honor, but not by a shared vision for their people. There was a sense of yearning in the air, a quiet anticipation for something that could bind the disparate clans together, something that could offer a deeper sense of purpose and meaning beyond the immediate struggles for survival in the harsh desert environment. Into this world, around the year 570, a man named Muhammad was born. He was an orphan from the respected Quraysh tribe, known among his people for his contemplative nature and his unimpeachable character. He was called Al-Amin, the trustworthy. As a merchant, he traveled with the caravans, seeing firsthand the world beyond the peninsula's borders. He observed the monotheistic faiths of Judaism and Christianity, and he grew increasingly troubled by the social injustices, the endless tribal conflicts, and the polytheistic worship he saw around him. He would often retreat to the quiet solitude of the mountains surrounding Mecca, seeking a deeper connection with the divine, a clarity that the world below could not provide. It was during one of these retreats, in a cave on Mount Hira, that his life and the course of history would be forever changed. Here, in the stillness of the night, he received what Muslims believe to be the first of many revelations from God, delivered through the angel Gabriel. These revelations, which would later be compiled into the Quran, spoke of one God, Allah, the creator of all things. They called for an end to idolatry and a commitment to justice, compassion, and submission to the will of the one true God. This was a message of profound simplicity and immense power, a single, clear voice that would soon echo across the sands of Arabia and far beyond, heralding the dawn of a new faith, Islam. The message Muhammad received was revolutionary. It challenged the very foundations of Meccan society, its economy, its social structure, and its religious traditions. Initially, his call to monotheism was met with suspicion and fierce hostility from the powerful Quraysh elite, who profited from the pilgrimages to the Kaaba's many idols. His earliest followers were a small, devoted group, drawn from his family and the humbler echelons of society. They were inspired by the Quran's powerful verses, which spoke of human equality, charity for the poor, and accountability before God. For them, Islam was not just a new set of beliefs. It was a blueprint for a just and compassionate community, an ummah, bound not by blood, but by shared faith. The persecution in Mecca grew relentless. The early Muslims faced ridicule, boycotts, and physical violence, yet their conviction did not waver. Their perseverance in the face of such adversity is a remarkable testament to the power of their newfound faith. In the year 622, the situation became untenable, leading to a pivotal moment in Islamic history, the Hijra, or migration. Muhammad and his followers left their homes in Mecca and traveled north to the city of Yathrib. This journey was not an escape, but a strategic and spiritual relocation. The people of Yathrib, later renamed Medina, the city of the Prophet, welcomed him not just as a preacher, but as a leader and an arbiter who could end their own long-standing tribal feuds. In Medina, the first Islamic community state began to take shape. Here, the principles revealed in the Quran were put into practice. Muhammad established a constitution that guaranteed the rights of all citizens, including the Jewish tribes living there, creating a pluralistic society governed by law and mutual respect. The call to prayer, echoing from the city's first mosque, became the rhythmic heartbeat of a community united in purpose. The teachings of Islam now guided every aspect of life, from commerce and governance to family and personal conduct. The fragmented Arabian tribes, for so long defined by their rivalries, were beginning to see themselves as part of a single, unified people under one God. This newfound unity gave the Muslims the strength to defend themselves and, eventually, to return to Mecca. In 630, Muhammad led a large, disciplined force of followers and marched on his birth city. In a moment that has resonated through the centuries, Mecca surrendered peacefully. Muhammad entered the city not as a conqueror seeking vengeance, but as a reconciler. He granted amnesty to his former enemies and, in a profoundly symbolic act, cleansed the Kaaba of its idols, rededicating the ancient sanctuary to the worship of Allah alone. With this act, Arabia was, for the first time in its history, united under a single leader and a single transcendent faith, ready to step onto the world stage. Following the Prophet Muhammad's death in 632, the unity he had forged could have easily fractured. Instead, the community he built showed astonishing resilience. His successors, the Caliphs, took up the mantle of leadership, and what followed was one of the most rapid and far-reaching expansions in human history. Fueled by a powerful sense of purpose and a remarkable military prowess honed in the desert, Arab armies moved out of the peninsula with incredible speed. They were not merely raiders, they were carriers of a new vision for the world. A message of monotheism and a structured legal code that they believed was a mercy to all nations. Within a single generation, the old world order was redrawn. The two great superpowers of the age, the Byzantine and Sasanian Persian empires, had been weakened by centuries of exhaustive warfare against each other. They were unprepared for the swift, coordinated campaigns of the Islamic armies. The Sasanian Empire collapsed entirely, its territories absorbed into the burgeoning Islamic Caliphate. The Byzantine Empire, though it would endure for centuries more, lost some of its most prized provinces, including Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. The crescent of Islam was rising over lands that had been the cradle of ancient civilizations, bringing with it a profound and lasting transformation. The expansion did not stop there. To the west, Islamic forces swept across North Africa, their banners carried by newly converted Berber peoples. By the early 8th century, they had crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and entered the Iberian Peninsula, establishing a powerful presence in what would become Spain and Portugal. To the east, their influence spread through Persia and into Central Asia, reaching the borders of India and China. In just over a century, an empire had been established that stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indus River. It was a domain of incredible diversity, encompassing countless different peoples, cultures, and traditions, all now living within a single political and religious framework. This astonishing success can be attributed to several factors. The military zeal of the Arab armies was certainly one, but so too was the message they carried. In many of the conquered lands, the local populations were weary of oppressive rule and heavy taxation by their former masters. The Islamic administrators often offered greater religious tolerance, particularly to other people of the book like Jews and Christians, and a more predictable system of governance. This allowed them to consolidate their rule not just by the sword, but by creating a society where many found the new order preferable to the old. A new global civilization was being born from the deserts of Arabia. With this vast new empire came a new era of unprecedented cultural and intellectual brilliance. The political center of the Caliphate eventually shifted from the Arabian heartland to more cosmopolitan cities like Damascus, and most famously, Baghdad. Founded in 762 by the Abbasid Caliph al-Mansur, Baghdad was conceived as the center of the world. It was a perfectly round city, a masterpiece of urban planning, with the Caliph's palace and the Grand Mosque at its very heart. From here, roads radiated outwards to all corners of the empire. For centuries, Baghdad was the largest and wealthiest city on earth, a dazzling metropolis of palaces, gardens, bustling markets, and over 1 million souls. It was here, in the vibrant streets and quiet courtyards of Baghdad, that the Islamic Golden Age truly flourished. The Abbasid caliphs were not just rulers, they were passionate patrons of learning. They understood that knowledge, from any source, was a treasure to be sought. A monumental translation movement was launched, centered at the legendary House of Wisdom, the Bait al-Hikmah. Scholars from all faiths and backgrounds, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish, were gathered and funded to translate the great works of the ancient world. Greek texts on philosophy, medicine, and mathematics, Persian literature, and Indian scientific treatises were all meticulously translated into Arabic, preserving them for posterity. This was not simply an act of preservation. It was the catalyst for a spectacular wave of innovation. Islamic scholars did not just copy the ancient texts, they absorbed them, critiqued them, and built upon them. In mathematics, they adopted numerals from India, including the revolutionary concept of zero, and developed algebra, a word derived from the title of a foundational text by the scholar Al-Khwarizmi. In astronomy, they built great observatories, like the one in Maraghe, where they charted the stars with incredible accuracy, corrected Ptolemaic models of the universe, and gave us words like zenith and azimuth. Their maps of the world were the most advanced of their time. In the field of medicine, the progress was equally astounding. Physicians like Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, wrote encyclopedic works like the Canon of Medicine, a monumental text that would become the standard medical textbook in both the Islamic world and Europe for over 600 years. They established the first true hospitals, which were complex institutions with separate wards for different illnesses, offering free care to all who needed it. These were not just places of healing, but also centers for medical education and research. The spirit of inquiry, fostered by the Islamic faith's emphasis on seeking knowledge, had ignited a scientific revolution that would illuminate the world. The flourishing of Islamic civilization was not confined to science and philosophy. It also gave rise to a unique and breathtakingly beautiful artistic tradition. Because the faith discouraged the depiction of human or animal forms in religious contexts, artists channeled their creative energies into other avenues, developing a visual language of extraordinary complexity and elegance. One of the most important of these art forms was calligraphy. The written word, the vessel of the Quran's divine revelation, was considered sacred. Calligraphers were among the most respected artists, transforming Arabic script into stunning works of art that adorned everything from manuscripts to the walls of magnificent mosques. This mastery of line and form found its perfect expression in architecture. Across the empire, from Cordoba in Spain to Samarkand in Central Asia, a new architectural style emerged, one that was both grand and deeply spiritual. Mosques were designed to be spaces of serene contemplation and communal prayer. Their vast open courtyards, forests of elegant columns, and soaring domes created a sense of both immensity and intimacy. The Great Mosque of Cordoba, with its astonishing double-tiered arches of red and white stone, and the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, with its shimmering golden dome and intricate mosaics, stand as timeless monuments to this architectural genius. Another hallmark of Islamic art is its fascination with intricate geometric patterns. Artists and mathematicians worked hand in hand to create mesmerizing designs, known as arabesques, based on repeating, interlocking shapes. These patterns, which could be extended infinitely, were seen as a reflection of the infinite, unified, and ordered nature of God's creation. They covered the surfaces of buildings, carpets, ceramics, and metalwork, transforming everyday objects into things of profound beauty. This art was not meant to be a simple decoration. It was a form of visual meditation, drawing the eye and the mind into a contemplation of the divine order that underpins the universe. This cultural and artistic synthesis created vibrant and sophisticated urban centers that were wonders of the medieval world. Cities like Cairo, Damascus, and Isfahan were not just seats of power, they were thriving hubs of craft and commerce. Their sprawling souks or markets were filled with the sights and sounds of a global network. Here one could find silk from China, spices from India, paper, a technology learned from Chinese prisoners of war, and finely crafted leather goods, glass, and steel. These bustling cities, with their grand mosques, busy workshops, and scholarly libraries, were the vibrant heart of a civilization that was shaping the world through its faith, its knowledge, and its unparalleled artistry. The impact of this great civilization on the course of world history is immense, and its legacy is deeply woven into the fabric of our modern world. The Islamic Golden Age was not an isolated phenomenon. It was a crucial bridge connecting the ancient world with the European Renaissance. While much of Europe was experiencing a period of relative stagnation following the collapse of the Roman Empire, the scholars of Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba were safeguarding and advancing the intellectual heritage of humanity. They were the keepers of the flame of knowledge, and when that flame was eventually passed back to Europe, it helped ignite a new age of discovery. This transmission of knowledge occurred through various channels, through trade, through the Crusades, and most significantly, through Islamic Spain and Sicily. European scholars traveled to cities like Toledo, a great center of translation, to learn Arabic and gain access to the vast libraries of scientific and philosophical works. The writings of Aristotle, lost to the West, were reintroduced to Europe through Arabic translations and commentaries. The mathematical, medical, and astronomical knowledge developed in the Islamic world flowed northward, providing the essential groundwork for the scientific revolution that would later sweep across the continent. Our very language is filled with the echoes of this exchange in words like alcohol, alchemy, alkali, and algorithm. Beyond the realm of science, the cultural and artistic innovations of the Islamic world left an indelible mark. The architectural styles, the use of pointed arches, the intricate decorative motifs all found their way into European art and building design. The tales from 1001 Nights fired the imagination of storytellers across the globe. From the food we eat to the music we hear, subtle influences from this period persist. The civilization fostered by Islam was truly global, connecting diverse peoples through a shared network of trade, faith, and ideas, creating a level of interconnectedness the world had never before seen. And so, when we look back at the Middle Ages, it is vital to see the full picture. The story is not just one of castles and knights in Europe. It is also the story of the desert caravan and the call to prayer, of the scholar in the house of wisdom and the calligrapher beautifying a Quran. The rise of Islam did not just create a new empire. It ignited a period of extraordinary human achievement that enriched the entire world. It united a people, built magnificent cities, pushed the boundaries of knowledge, and created a legacy of beauty and intellect that continues to shape and inspire us to this day. A testament to a faith that, in its golden age, illuminated the globe.